Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Brenda Perryman Show right here on TV 33, WHPR, Comcast 20 in Detroit. And I am so happy to be here with my guests. We have a jam-packed show for you today. We have the dentist. Today is the day to ask the dentist, so get your questions out, because I know a lot of you might have eaten last week, and some of you might have had a little trouble eating and chewing the food because you were eating a little more, maybe. Also, we have Councilman Rodney Patrick from Highland Park, who's going to talk to us and bring us up to date on some of the issues facing Highland Park right now. So you need to stay tuned and listen. I'm just telling you, stay tuned and listen. So I'd like to introduce my guests again, my sponsors, Dr. Ronald and Dr. Blake Livingston. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
And today we mourn the passing of the great Nelson Mandela, the former president of South Africa, a man who actually knew what it meant to sacrifice. You know, when we sit up and complain and all this, think about him. This was a man who stood on his values. He wanted apartheid ended. He was in prison for 26 years.
Wow.
Do you have memories? What do you think about when you think of Dr. Mandela? I mean, Mr. Mandela.
Mr. Mandela was, he was essentially a Martin Luther King of South Africa. And he saw what was wrong, and he did the best he could to right that situation, was willing to give his life. Fortunately, he didn't have to, but he went to prison. He suffered greatly for his people. The main problem and question when I was watching all the tributes yesterday and last night was, where are the new Mandelas coming from? You know, that generation, Dr. King, Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela, where are our new leaders coming from?
Right. You're a young person, Blake. What are your thoughts?
Well, similar to what my dad said, he's someone who fought for his beliefs, was willing to go to jail for his beliefs, die for his beliefs, and that's something you don't see very often anymore.
And someone who is a role model for sacrifice.
Absolutely.
And it's being vigilant.
Absolutely. And I think that it's unfortunate that he passed. He lived a long, full life and accomplished a lot of things, but I think now since he's being honored, I think it's good, because a lot of young people are going to find out who he is, because I guarantee you walk down the street and ask 20 young people, only one of them is going to know who he is.
I know. You know what I did yesterday? I think I mentioned it to you. I called each of my kids because I took them to Tiger Stadium when he was here. And I called them, and my son, I called him out of state, and I said, did you tell your wife you were there? I mean, you see why I took you. And we talked about it then and everything. It was just such a celebration, so many people there, and it was just amazing to be in his presence. And I know that he is sitting at the right hand or somewhere with God, because this man, he knew what it meant to sacrifice and believe in what you believe. And when you think about some of the petty things that people are fighting for right now,
Doesn't make any sense. And, in a way, he kind of paved the way for Barack Obama to be president. I mean, he showed that he could lead a country, and the progress that he made with South Africa and with a similar situation in terms of two different types of populations, or multicultural population, and can do it peacefully.
Yes, and the people in South Africa, the blacks, they really did suffer. There would be times where you could have your little shanty house in South Africa, and all of a sudden they come and bulldoze it down. There were so many things happening. And like I said, God rest his soul.
God rest his soul.
Right. And now, the dentist. Everybody, I had a question for them this morning. I have a friend whose wisdom tooth came out on its own, root and all. And they were very, very proud that this wisdom tooth came out, and they didn't have to go to the dentist. And they didn't have hardly any pain. In fact, no pain. Mm-hmm. But that's an issue, isn't it?
That's a serious issue. Your body parts should not fall off. We were talking about that earlier. This particular person, they're in their 60s.
Yes.
And usually your wisdom teeth erupt around the age of 15 to, say, 21, your age of wisdom. That's why they call them wisdom teeth.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's where that came from, was wisdom teeth. Because, when you're young, you know everything. So
Oh,
that's,
yeah.
you have a lot of wisdom. So,
Yeah, like,
but what that sounds like indicates that he had gum disease. He had lost all the bone around that tooth, and it just fell out. Now, that's also a sign and symptom of a more serious problem. If he has gum disease around a tooth that's that bad that it can come out on his own, that means that he has probably gum disease throughout his mouth, and also that can cause problems throughout his system terms, especially if he's a diabetic or has any type of heart problems or artificial knees or hips. Those are type of chronic infections you don't want to have.
absolutely.
Gum disease is exactly what he just said. It's a chronic infection. If you walked around with a festering boil on your chest, you would go get it checked out. The problem is gum disease is a festering infection in your mouth. But since you can hide it and close your mouth and nobody sees it, you forget about it.
Explain chronic to people.
Chronic acute infection is, I cut myself and it's all of a sudden it's swollen and it hurts. Chronic infection is long standing. Okay, so it's been sitting there. I've got bacteria sitting, in your gums for a long period of time, and chronic infections tend to be painless, so people tend to ignore them. Okay, but the disease still proliferates. It
Absolutely.
still gets worse.
Because a lot of people, diabetes is chronic.
Yep,
Right.
absolutely.
And a lot of people, because they don't feel a certain way,
Right.
they say, well, I'm fine.
That's exactly right. Chronic diseases are, silent killers like hypertension, diabetes, gum disease. Those are all things. If you start to feel pain from any of those things, it's getting a little bit late to treat. It's when they've already done damage, because they're diseases that you don't know until it's starting to cause serious problems.
Wow.
And there is a correlation between diabetes and gum disease. Gum disease affects your blood sugar, and your blood sugar affects your gum disease. We can, a lot of times, over the years, over 30 years, I've seen many patients where as soon as I look in their mouth, my first question is, are you diabetic? And they'll say, yes, how did you know? And I'll say, because you have serious gum disease here from just minor plaque irritation. A person can have plaque which builds up on their teeth every night, and then you brush it off in the morning and everything feels fine. But usually a diabetic, they'll have just a minor irritation, it'll flare into an abscess. Or they'll continually have chronic abscesses where their oral health is relatively okay, but just like if they were to get a sore on their foot and it won't heal as a diabetic, the same things happen in the oral cavity. If you have
Now, can you explain abscess to me?
Sure. Abscess is when an infection is in your, we'll talk about teeth, infection in your gums, and that infection is looking for a route to spread. When it goes the path of least resistance, it could be out the side of the gum, and then you get a little pimple on your gums, and that infection's looking for a place to drain. Okay, and that's what an abscess is.
An abscess can be very dangerous, can't it?
Well, actually, an abscess means the infection has found a place to escape, so it relieves the pressure. So it's actually better than if the infection can't find a place to go and you swell up. Okay, that's when we start to deal with major complications, risks including, including death.
Isn't an abscess an infection?
An abscess is an infection. However, that infection has found a route to escape, so the swelling can't occur. When we have swelling is when we're dealing with more threatening issues.
Okay, you have some teeth here. These
are what this is. This is just an example. I brought a couple models here for demonstration for patients. Questions we get every day is, what are implants? I want to get an implant. I want my teeth back in, and I want them to fit comfortably, and I want them to stay in properly. This is an example of what we see every single day, and it's a lower denture. Patients, we see a lot of our people who had their teeth extracted at a young age, especially those that lived in the South. And now that they're seniors, when they had those teeth extracted years ago, the bone that the denture sat on is totally deteriorated, sometimes flat as this table here. So it makes wearing a denture difficult and sometimes impossible. We can surgically place 2 implants in that denture, in that lower jaw, and make a special type of denture that will snap onto that jawbone, and you can eat an apple, eat a steak. You don't have to use Fixodent. You can function properly with a well-fitting denture.
Would food get under that? Or it seems to snap pretty securely.
Right, that's totally sealed around there. Nothing's going to get under that.
Okay.
Yeah, the denture is made to be flush to your tissue.
Right, you can feel how that snaps on there.
What if people are having trouble with their dentures? Just mentioning dentures, the bottom dentures or something like that. Should they go? Could it mean that their gum is getting smaller, or
Absolutely. The important thing about that, a lower denture, or dentures in general, is to understand that the only purpose of the jawbone is to hold teeth. So when teeth are lost, that jawbone shrinks. So that alters the fit of your denture. Dentures are only supposed to be worn around 5 years, and then we're supposed to get a replacement. The reason
does
is
that go for partials also?
yes, that's true for partials also. The reason is because when that bone shrinks, that denture is now too big for what it was originally made for, and that can cause chronic irritation, rubbing in certain areas, cause sores, and that chronic irritation can lead to precancerous lesions.
Really?
Yes.
If you have any questions for the dentist, call us at 313-868-0342, 868-0351, 868-4336. So this is an implant.
That's correct.
Now, there's an actress on the Housewives of Atlanta.
Okay.
My daughter watches this. Her name's Kenya Moore.
Okay.
Her teeth seem huge.
Okay.
They just seem bigger than regular teeth.
Hmm.
What what do they call that?
Well, I mean, a lot of how your teeth are going to look a lot of times depend on your jawbone. If you have a larger jaw, if you're a large person, she's large. She's not petite. And, it's just a matter of her genetics, and that's the way her teeth look. I'm sure she's had some restorations
Right.
done. But
That's what I was going to ask, because I've seen some people, they get, I don't know if it's bonded, I don't know what you call
Right.
it, but their teeth got bigger, and it kind of shapes their mouth a little different.
well,
Your lips and facial muscles, they rest on your teeth, and the way they lay is dictated by the contours of your teeth and your jaw bones. And she could have had restorations. She could have had crowns done on the front teeth. She could have had veneers, which is kind of
That's
like
what I was going to ask about, veneers.
veneers are made of porcelain, and they're like a fake fingernail for your tooth. You shave down a little bit of the front of the tooth, and we cement on. It's not painful. It doesn't hurt.
Oh,
It doesn't,
oh.
no. And you can do that procedure without anesthetic. And
And what do? They slip all of them on?
we cement them on,
Oh.
and it's, like I said, like a fake fingernail for your tooth.
Now, there's
It's
also
a cosmetic approach to make it look better.
that's called a indirect veneer. We also can bond, which gives you the same appearance and the same features using a direct technique, where we build up using a special acrylic material that's bonded with a special light that'll bond to the enamel and change the shape and color and size of the tooth. That we do chair side, depending on how many teeth we're doing. We can do it in 1 to 2 visits, and that's also without anesthetic, which will essentially give you the same appearance. As a matter of fact, he's had that done 10 years ago, and he's still got the same bonding. Did you have bonding or veneers?
Bonding.
Yeah, bonding. Yeah, bonding. Done years ago, and it's a economical way to take care of a problem. And veneers are a little bit more costly than direct bonding that we do.
So the bonding, and the difference between the bonding and veneer is
Mhm.
what?
Veneers, we have to take impressions and send it to the lab, and they're fabricated, and they're made out of porcelain. Okay, and porcelain doesn't stain, but bonding is made of composite, which is tooth-colored filling material, and so we can shape it and adjust it however we want it. But we do that chair side. We put you in the chair, and we do it right there, and that's it.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
And we just did one recently. And a lot of times we'll put the mirror in the patient's hand, and they'll say, "Oh, we'll build up a little bit right here, or bring this down a little bit, or bring this." And then when they finally get it, and they say, "Oh, that looks great," and then we polish it, they're done.
Wow.
And then you can do that, in an hour or so. But like I said, it's totally without anesthetic also.
Now, what is this here?
This is a partial that we do also that's relatively new. A partial denture replaces, just as it indicates, the name indicates, a partial number of teeth, not the entire amount, as a full denture would do, which would replace all the teeth, or full plate, as Grandma used to say. This is a partial denture. Now, this is the kind we used to do pretty much with the wires that would show, and people smile and they'd see all that metal. Nowadays, we can do it. We'll put a metal framework in there that nobody sees, but there's no wires visible. And these are virtually invisible in the mouth. Your gum tissue shows through that, so it shows your natural color. Because as you know, we have different shades of our gums, anywhere from pink to brown to everything in between. So you want something that looks totally natural and visible in its place. And this is lightweight. It's flexible. patients love these. We do these every day. Patients are really patients who have had these come in and get them replaced with these once they see how aesthetic they are.
Oh, I see. Now, what if a person's plate breaks? I'm looking at,
Right.
well,
Right.
breaks in half.
If it breaks in half, we can repair a broken denture, but a lot of times a lower denture that's broken in half, repair is not going to be your permanent solution. You might
Right,
want to
it's
just go ahead and
temporary.
get a new one. Yeah.
It's temporary.
Yeah.
And the reason those usually break, and the patients who have dentures will understand, usually split right down the center. And the reason they split down the center is like we were talking about before, Dr. Blake mentioned, is that you may start out when you have your denture with bone height of, maybe I'm just exaggerating here, this high. After 5 years, it's this high. Well, that denture was made when you had more bone. So as that bone shrinks, there's a gap there. And that's what Fixodent and Polygrip and those things, they fill that gap. Now, what will happen is that because there's a gap there, when you chew, that denture wants to flex into that gap, and it'll just crack in the center. So that usually indicates that the denture is ill-fitting. Usually an older denture over 5 years old. And I say it's not that the denture wears out after 5 years. It's a situation of the bone has deteriorated so much because we all change over time.
And there was something else. Oh, we have Miss Smith on the line. Good morning.
Hi, Miss Perryman.
How are you?
I'm doing fine. And to your lovely dentist sitting there.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yes.
Good morning.
Okay. I would like to know from the dentist. It doesn't matter the daddy or the son. How can you all determine? Because from my understanding, that dentists now can find out if a patient have cancer, if they're diabetic or whatever. Is there a certain test that you all would have to run on the patient to find, with the X-rays, or how do you all determine that?
That's a very good question.
Excellent question.
Typically, when detecting cancer, we're looking for cancers of the head and neck. So when we do initial exam, we take a look at all the tissues inside your mouth, on your tongue, on the top of your tongue, on the sides of your tongue, on the bottom of your tongue, at the back of your throat, on your neck. We palpate around your neck on the areas where lymph nodes are, which are areas where that swell up. Sometimes when you get a cold, you get a tenderness in your neck. That's a swollen lymph node. What we see when patients have cancer is a large amount of swollen lymph nodes or a lesion inside their mouth. Now, diabetes. Also on cancer, we look at our X-rays to see if there's any growths in the bone, any abnormalities in the bone. We look for abnormalities in bone and soft tissue when we're looking for cancer. Now, diabetes, when we're like my dad said earlier, sometimes you look at a patient and you know right away that something is wrong. And what we're looking for is sudden changes in problems with the gums. Now, I had a patient recently. He came in, and we'd been seeing him for a long time, and his gums had been moderately healthy, and then all of a sudden severely worse. Okay, what we're looking for is decreases in immune function. That's what happens when you have diabetes. Your immune system is not able to function as well as it did before, and it can't fight the bacteria that's causing the gum disease. So we see all of a sudden, much more inflammation, much more bleeding, pus, loose teeth. When last time we saw you 6 months ago, you were healthy. And that's when we start to notice, okay, maybe something is going on here.
Wow.
Other illnesses that we can detect, other immune diseases such as HIV and a variety of other ones. We do that based on our intraoral exams.
Okay, can I ask you this then?
Okay,
right quick?
quickly, because we have a couple more calls. But thank you, Miss Smith. What's the question?
Okay, I want to know right now. Can I call your office and schedule an appointment?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Can I have that number right now? Because
Yes,
I'm on
our
my
phone
way.
number
to go
is.
to my doctor.
Yeah, no problem. Our phone number is 313-883-3050. We're on Woodward Avenue, 2 blocks north of the Davison.
Okay, I know where you're located. I just need to know your number. Okay, thank you, Mrs.
Thank you.
Perryman.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
Have a blessed
Bye-bye.
day.
We have Miss Morris on the line. Good morning. Hello?
Hello.
Hi, Miss Morris.
Hi. Yes. How are you this morning, everybody?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. I would like for you to address the issue of jaw rot. I understand it's a disease that only black women get, and only some black women get, and I haven't. And I've had an experience where a teeth, it was like a little piece of glass in the skin, It eventually came up, and I understand my body was pushing it out. And when I went to the dentist with it, I think he gave me a shot or whatever, but it was a green tooth that my body had pushed out, and it would eventually have broken off, but he stamped it off. But I would really have liked to have known how to prevent it. Basically, now it's how to care for it. Could you express your views on that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think what this young lady is referring to is that she probably had what we call a residual root tip, where she had an extraction previously. It could have been a year ago. It could have been 10 years ago. It could have been 20 years ago. And a little piece of that root was left in that bone, and over time, it worked its way through the bone to the surface, where she could probably see just a little bit of it, and then eventually she went to her dentist, and he took an x-ray of it, and then we can see it visually on the x-ray, and then we just go in there and remove it. But what we like to do when we extract a tooth is we will visually inspect that root, and we'll show it to the patient and say, why? Because patients usually want to see their tooth, and they want to see how long the root was, and we want to see how long the root was also to make sure we have all of that tooth. So the best thing to do is whenever you have a tooth extracted, ask the dentist, can you see the tooth, and have them explain to you. And there are times where it's more of a headache and a hassle for the patient for me to go in there and spend another hour trying to get a 2-millimeter piece of root out, which won't cause any problem, which will stay there dormant and not cause any problem for a long time, and then if it ever comes to the surface, remove it.
So what can you do to care for it? Or
Well, you want to go to your dentist regularly so you don't have to have your tooth extracted.
give your number again.
Our phone number is 313-883-3050.
Okay, we have Ray on the line. Good morning, Ray.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello?
Ray?
Hello?
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
No, I was on the air. Yeah,
Yes.
My teeth are not becoming. So, do you think I should be coming to you?
I do. I'm glad that's catching on. All right.
Yes, we definitely think you should.
Why do you say that?
Because my teeth be gone.
Oh, your teeth be gone when you come to us, and they'll be back.
I was wondering how long would it take to get an entire plate up and bottom?
That's a good question. Blake, you want to answer that?
The process of making a denture, it's a few steps. We take an impression, get a cast of your bone that's present. We record your bite and wax so we can make the proper dimensions of your denture. And then we set all the teeth in wax so you can try it in, look at it, make sure you like the way it looks, like the size of the teeth, like the shape of the teeth, like the color of the teeth, and then we finish. So it's 4 short steps.
4 short steps takes approximately 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. Now, I want to emphasize that we talk to patients all the time. Oh, I go somewhere and they make them overnight. Well, they could probably make a car in an hour. But I would rather have them take their time and do it properly when I know it's going to work.
And they have a good fit.
And they have a good fit. And I say that's why we do try-ins and that type of thing. Patient gets to see the denture before it's finished, and they get to evaluate it and say, hey, I like that. Let me have that. That's great. So we always do that with every patient.
That would require 3 or 4 visits.
About 3 or 4 visits, but that's the proper way to do a denture. They say you can do anything fast, but is it done well? And you also want to have a dentist who's made thousands of dentures for 30 years. It's just like anything else.
Okay.
So we'd be happy to take care of you.
Thank you. Thanks.
You have the number?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Marie on the line. I think it's Marie. Good morning.
Yes.
Hi.
I would like to know about wisdom tooth, the wisdom teeth.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay,
What is
because
your
I
question?
have all 4 of mine still, and I'm 70, and I'm 72 years old, and I was wondering, should I have them removed?
Well,
Also, there's nothing wrong with them, you know.
if there's nothing wrong with those wisdom teeth, they've been serving you right for, you said, since you're 72, so you probably had them about 50 years. No problem.
Yes.
No
No
problem.
My philosophy on wisdom teeth and in dentistry in general is if it's not broke, we don't try to fix it. If you're not having a problem and at your age, they've served you well, you've probably taken good care of your health, wisdom teeth do not have to automatically be extracted. If they're not impacted or infected or decayed, I will leave them alone.
I have all 4 of my wisdom teeth. I hope I have them until I'm 72 also.
Yes. Okay, then. Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
We have Tony on the line. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning to all of you guys.
Good
How
morning.
you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, I do have a tooth problem, and like a lot of other people, you're embarrassed about how your teeth look. So I would probably need an extraction
Okay.
for a nice partial or implant.
Okay.
How do you deal with the time span between the time of the extraction and the time I receive the teeth for replacement? A lot of people are embarrassed about walking around with nothing in their mouth. Is there something you can do up until the time your actual partial come back?
That's a excellent question, and usually, especially in the front where patients have social obligations and that type of thing, and of course nobody wants to walk around with their teeth missing. In most cases, we can do what's called an immediate denture or an immediate partial. We do that all the time, or even a one-tooth replacement for a temporary. So while you heal, you have something there that's aesthetic, something that you can function with until it heals properly, and then we would come back later on, a few months down the road after everything's healed, and place the permanent denture or partial or implant, whatever needs to be done. But in most cases nowadays, we do have something that we can place in there immediately. We take the tooth out, put the denture right in, or take the tooth out, put the partial right in. If you notice, when I first started back in 1981, it was standard for patients to walk around with, get their teeth extracted, walk around for 6 weeks, then we make a denture. Then we make a denture for them. But nowadays, as you know, people like yourself, people are not having that. So,
Yeah, it is kind of embarrassing. But you said even after an extraction is possible.
oh yeah,
That would be an extra cost, though, those temporary partials.
well, sometimes we don't even have to do the temporary. We can do the permanent, and then what we would do is what we call a reline later on, about a few months down the road when the tissue is totally healed. So you would, in many cases, keep that same denture or partial, but we would line the inside of the denture to compensate for whatever tissue shrunk during that healing process. So a lot of
Are you affiliated with all the programs for low-income people? I mean, where can low-income people or people who have very little income, you got a program for that?
Well, usually that's covered under Medicaid. Most patients have, in a situation like that, state covers under Medicaid for that type of thing. We unfortunately do not take Medicaid any longer due to all the cuts that have taken place. But the University of Detroit Dental School takes Medicaid, and there are also other offices. Even if we don't take your insurance under those situations, we can refer you to somebody who we know is good, and we can get you in contact with them.
Well, I'll probably be coming to see you, and thanks for taking my call.
Well, thank you for your
Okay.
question. You have a blessed day.
Okay. What's that number again?
Phone number is 313-883-3050. There's somebody right there now to take your call.
Right at the office. Well, I mean, people want to look good. They want to be able to chew their food because that goes with their digestion.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's a problem that you see with people with missing back teeth. People
Correct.
with missing back teeth, your front teeth are meant to chop your food. Your back teeth are meant to grind up your food and make it digestible. People without back teeth tend to have more problems with indigestion and heartburn.
Wow. We have IFA, I think it's IFA on the line. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello? Hello? I hear you.
Michael.
Oh, what is it?
Michael.
Oh, Michael.
Michael.
Oh,
okay.
I'm sorry, Michael.
I was saying, like, if you don't have to do no type of surgery, and like in case of gingivitis where you don't have any teeth at all, can you do those overnight in a day?
In terms of immediate dentures?
Yeah, the whole dentures. You don't have any surgery. There's no teeth at all.
Oh, okay.
involved.
Oh, no teeth at all? Yeah. We can't do it overnight. No, the process for making dentures is not an overnight one. It's like we said, we still have to do those appropriate steps.
Yeah, it takes 4 steps to do that, and usually it's going to take us a few weeks to get it done properly. So it would take take 4 visits.
So how do these other companies claim to give you one-day dentures then?
They do because they have a lab that's there at the office in the facility. But here again, like I say, anybody who does a rush job, you have to be kind of leery of that. And I say there's a lot of things that can be done in 5 minutes, but really should take an hour.
Yeah,
So
but
anything can be
let's
done.
do
Anything
it-
can be done quickly, but is it done properly? That's what you want to know. And you're going to wear a denture for at least 5 years, so you want it done right.
You got it, Michael? Oh.
Okay.
Lastly, let's talk about Alzheimer's and dentists.
I happen to have a article from a journal here that a lot of patients have been interested in, and it's a study, and this is dated August 16th of 2013, And it says the 2-minute habit that may prevent Alzheimer's. And it says gum inflammation multiplies Alzheimer risk. The bacteria commonly found in chronic, as Dr. Blake said, periodontal disease, gum disease, can enter the bloodstream from everyday activities and potentially travel to the brain. And they've done the studies. This is in a British journal that backs up a lot of American research, where they're finding that inflammation that's caused by the bacteria that's in your gums can travel in your bloodstream. As your grandmother used to say, you know that stuff is getting in your system, which is true. And it can cause issues with your heart. It can cause issues, as Dr. Blake said, in terms of diabetes. It can cause issues. Now they're finding studies in the risk with Alzheimer's. They're finding seniors without gum disease have a lower percentage and risk of Alzheimer's and dementia than those seniors who have untreated gum disease.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
this is a fact, a medical fact here.
no wonder my mother at just about 94 can remember everything. Back in the day, now she's good.
Yeah, we have patients that are in their 80s and 90s. We have patients, just last week just had her 94th birthday, and the ones that take care of their teeth have always gone to the dentist. She's sharp as a tack, you know.
That's it.
But then we also see patients who have serious dementia problems, who have very poor oral hygiene, and have always had chronic gum disease that was untreated.
Oh, my God. Well, Doctors Livingston, quite a day. We learned a lot today, and your questions were just great.
Excellent question. As always, Ms. Perryman, you have a very knowledgeable audience, obviously.
I love my audience. I love my audience. So let's once again, you'll see the commercial, but once again, where are you located?
We're at 13724 Woodward Avenue, 2 blocks north of the Davison, right here in Highland Park, and our phone number is 313-883-3050.
If I just mention one last thing, too, is that we are now in network with Cigna and Aetna, but we take Delta, Blue Cross, and most major insurances, and when you call, they can explain all that to you and find out what your coverage is.
And would you say it for the audience live and in person? If your teeth, what?
If your teeth are not becoming to you, then you should be coming to us.
Right. Don't you say the last part?
Yeah, I'll let him. He got it.
Oh, wow. No, we
Unless
want
we
it
do
to be
something.
authentic. Okay, so if your teeth aren't becoming to you, you should be coming to them.
That's right.
And I mean that. They're great. In fact, William Washington, my former student, a Highland Parker, born and raised in Highland Park, he still goes to you.
Right. He's one of many. And we just want to mention, too, that your insurance benefits expire at the end of the year. They don't roll over, so you better use them before you lose them.
Yeah, use them.
Use them.
Okay, we'll be back in just a moment with Highland Park City Councilman Rodney Patrick. Get your questions ready. Good morning, and welcome once again to the Brenda Perryman Show, right here on TV 33 WHPR Comcast 20 in Detroit. And right now I have my guest. He's been here before, friend of the show, Councilman Rodney Patrick for the city of Highland Park. Good morning, Rodney.
Good morning, Ms. Perryman. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good.
You know, as we said in the last segment, we're thinking about Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts?
Sure, I have a couple thoughts. I think about the fact that my first campaign and my first election, I got over 1,000 votes, and I had to reflect on that simply because I don't know 1,000 people, but 1,000 people knew me, or at least knew me enough to vote for me. So you have a president like Nelson Mandela, who President Obama said yesterday went from being a prisoner to the presidency, and over millions and millions of people supported this man and loved this man, and his impact is globally. So he didn't know millions of people, but millions of people felt as if they knew him. And so that was a major, major loss, and over the course of a life that's been well lived and well supported by everybody.
Yes, absolutely. Now, Highland Park, you know, a place close to my heart, and I know it's a place close to yours.
Absolutely.
It's a city of Highland Park. Wonderful people are here.
Yes.
There have been some situations coming up. Can you
Yes.
First address maybe the water?
Sure, let's talk about the water. Yes, the reports that we saw in the news are accurate. Detroit has served Highland Park with a lawsuit of roughly $17 million. We know 95% of that amount is based on a back sewage bill that we've owed Detroit for a number of years. The rest of it is based on the fresh water that we owe Detroit because we switched over, because the mayor switched us over back in November 2012 without council approval, without council agreement. And at this point, Detroit wants some money. I understand that. I mean, we owe Detroit $80,000 per month, and we are not covering that cost.
$80,000 per month
For fresh water. We have our own water system, but I'm just saying the mayor decided to switch us over, and we owe Detroit $80,000 per month, and we're not covering that cost. So Detroit is concerned, and I understand that.
Well, what do you see? I mean, as far as the residences, a lot of residents have told me that they've been concerned about their water bill.
Exactly. They should be concerned. I mean, imagine, if you will, Ms. Perryman, the fact that if we were to go to the roof of this building and look around us with a 360-degree turn, we would not see a lake. But if we were to walk over to Davidson and DeQuinder, to our water plant, our water treatment plant, and walked up the steps and looked around again, we still would not see a lake, but we would look over in the reservoir and we would see lake water. We don't see a lake in an urban area because we certainly are very urban, but we look over in the reservoir and we see lake water from Lake St. Clair, but there's no lake around us. So we have fish in there, we have lake water. It's a beautiful sight to see, and it's very unique because folks knew what they were doing. So we have our own water system, but yet, and it was not that great of a system, most certainly. It needed some improvements. But you don't turn your back on a water system that serves its residents to go buy water from another city, which we can't afford. We can't do it. So the water bills have not been going out. We most certainly are very concerned about that. They're supposed to be going out fairly soon, but we've heard that song before. So hopefully it'll be corrected this time, and folks could get to the point of paying their water bill.
Okay, so if I'm a resident and I get a water bill that's hundreds and hundreds of dollars that's due on the 5th of January, what should I do?
I would advise them to go up to the water department immediately.
Which water department?
In Highland Park, the city of Highland Park. Your water bills are paid in the city of Highland Park, not Detroit. You go to the city of Highland Park. I submitted to the mayor a percentage plan back in, I believe, March of this year that talked about the fact that we need to adjust folks' water bills based upon the percentage of their income. Water usage and water costs should not be 35% of your income. The bill should not be that high.
Right.
Our seniors and our folks that are on fixed incomes, they need to be able to adjust their income for their water bill, but it should be based on a percentage. A DTE type of plan calls for maybe a certain percentage of their energy bill based upon their income, and we should do the same thing. That way we keep a continued revenue stream coming in every month for the city, for the water, and seniors and our folks on fixed incomes can manage
I see
better.
that this was presented February 2013,
February 2013.
but it hasn't happened. So what is the recourse for the residents?
I want residents to attend city council meetings.
When are they?
The first and third Monday of every month. We have the next meeting at 7 o'clock.
Where?
At City Hall, December 16th. December 16th at 7 o'clock at City Hall. We want folks to get involved because we do not want the exorbitant amount of water bills hitting the homes, and these water bills are 4 figures. That's unacceptable.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
4 figures.
Yes, unacceptable.
That is unacceptable.
Very much so.
And, okay, so that's what? You want them to come to the meetings?
Yeah, please. 7 o'clock.
If they have questions, what if I want to know what my water bill is right now? Can I go to the water department?
I would advise them to go up to the water department. Recently, I saw and I don't do a whole lot of the reading and responding on Facebook posts because that's a different type of situation. It's an open medium where folks can just make any comments that they want.
Yeah.
But there was one post that kind of bothered me in particular recently that said that the citizens of Highland Park, if you're not paying your water bill, that you're essentially, and this post said that you're stealing water. That you're stealing water. And quite frankly, it said that you're a part of the problem and not a part of the solution. And I was offended by that. My 91-year-old father is not a thief. My 85-year-old aunt, she's not a thief. She doesn't steal water. Anytime you make a contract, whether it's a cell phone contract or with DTE or whomever, the onus is on the service provider to provide an accurate and timely bill. The onus is on the receiver of that service to make sure they pay the bill in a timely fashion. But if bills aren't being received because they're not being printed and sent out, well, the folks that have not received the bill, they're not thieves. They're not stealing water. That's absurd, and I'm offended by that.
Well, So city council can't get those bills sent out?
City council does not control the water department.
Oh.
When you walk into City Hall and you walk through the second door of City Hall, on the left you have the treasurer's office by Ms. Janice Bibbs. Straight ahead you have the city clerk's office by Ms. Brenda Green. All the doors, or I'm sorry, all the windows to the right of the city clerk are controlled by the mayor, except for course the court.
Well, also we want to know about taking over. Is there going to be an emergency manager? Now, you're already in emergency management.
We have not necessarily qualified under the act. They are looking at where we are financially, and I just want to dispel just a few rumors about that. First of all, we do not have an emergency manager right now. That is not the case. We do not have an emergency manager. I cannot sit here today and tell you that an emergency manager is coming. That is not necessarily true or accurate. We will not, as of right now, there aren't any laws on the books that say that Detroit will absorb us. That it can't happen like that. The city of Detroit, the residents of Detroit have to vote for that, and the residents of Highland Park have to vote for that. Last month, Saugatuck and Douglas, they had a annexation vote, an absorption vote, and each residency in each city voted against the absorption or the coming together of each city. So it has to go before the people as of right now.
In Oak Park, they did that with part of Royal Oak Township that was located in Oak Park.
Right.
They had that.
That's right. But the people have to be involved in that kind of discussion.
Okay.
As of right now. Now, who's to say what can happen in Lansing? Because we most certainly know that the people that may be more friendly to urban areas don't control any branch of government in Lansing.
I know.
So as of right now, though, that law does not exist. But yes, a state review team has been appointed. All the elected officials back on October 21st traveled to Lansing. We sat before the Emergency Loan Review Board. They determined that there is enough financial stress in the city of Highland Park to proceed. A state review team has been appointed. They are going to come in and evaluate our finances to see where we are, and then they'll make a recommendation to the governor. If the governor accepts that recommendation, then what he'll do is turn to the city and say, you have 4 options at this point, city of Highland Park.
And what could those 4 options be?
You have the choice of an independent mediation. You have a consent agreement option. You have a bankruptcy option. And you have an emergency management option. Those are the 4. And we've seen this show before. I think for our folks that are watching this show in Detroit, we know what that looks like.
Yeah, we do know.
Yeah.
Scary.
It is. It is. But we have to continue to fight. We cannot give up. We have to get on the same page.
So how are we fighting?
Well, we're having some discussions, some light discussions, one-on-one discussions with various folks about how to proceed with this. And we'll see what the best course of action is for the city. I'm talking to residents. I had a group of residents in my home last night. Literally had a huge discussion about where we should go, and we want to get input from everybody. We really do, because it's going to affect everybody.
So that can also be discussed at the city council meeting?
Absolutely, absolutely. We at this point, I mean, city council meetings should be full anyway, but with these type of topics on the burner, we most certainly want our chambers at City Council, 7 o'clock, the first and third Mondays, to be full.
Who are the city council people?
We have Council President Chris Woodard. We have Council Pro Tem Norma Lewis. We have Councilmember Mamie Posey Moore. We have Councilman Rodney Patrick, yours truly, and we have Councilman Titus McClary, the former mayor of Highland Park.
My cousin.
Okay.
Anyway, we found out we were cousins years later. We had known each other forever.
I think we all are cousins somewhere down the line. The further you go, the closer we get.
King Street, South Carolina. That's where it all happened. And there was one more thing we wanted to discuss this morning.
Well, I think about the fact that Highland Park facing another situation with emergency management. It's really, enough is enough.
Enough, it's tired.
If we have another manager, Highland Park will have had 4 emergency managers since 2002. We will have been under some type of emergency management for 3 governors now. That's unheard of. Now, I have to give the state credit. The state does have the ability to run a good metro park in Kensington, and they can handle things like that. But when it comes to municipalities, we're the poster child for state failure. They have not fixed us.
Right, absolutely.
They have not done a good job at all. I mean, they've been in Highland Park the longest, and we're still suffering. Nothing's been fixed. So at this point, what we need the state to do is to assist us, and we'll make our own decisions, and we'll move forward based upon what's best for our own citizens.
When you say assist us, what do you mean?
Well, the assistance shouldn't be tied to necessarily revenue sharing, because they've cut some of that. They most certainly have cut some of our inspection. We don't even have an inspection department. The state handles all our inspections.
Really?
That's key, because we just went through an NSP 1 and an NSP 2 process, money from the federal government to help blight elimination and to help renovate homes in the city of Highland Park. So with that, there was a lot of inspection money involved in that, but the state controls our inspections. The state handles all of that. And so assist us means give us back the autonomy that any other city would have, and then maybe send a director down or somebody to assist us to give us suggestions with growth, suggestions with development, and then we go from there.
Right.
Don't come in to take over, because it hasn't worked.
No, it hasn't worked.
No.
I mean, it's, like you said, poster child for failure.
Absolutely. The state runs the state, and let the municipalities run the municipalities.
Okay, with, well, how do you think the state judges what they should do or who they should? I don't know.
Wow, I'm not sure how I want to answer that. I know what I kind of want to say, but I'm not gonna go there. I think the fact that we're on Woodward Avenue and the development on Woodward Avenue is strategic right now. You have the development of 8 Mile, you have the Midtown development coming north. We are at a point now where Highland Park is about to be the only section of Woodward Avenue that's not fully developed, not looking like other sections.
That's what I was going to ask. Would that trickle-down effect happen in Highland Park? I think it should. Highland Park has a great history.
Absolutely. It should happen, but what we want, Ms. Perryman, we want folks at the table, our own folks at the table.
Absolutely.
That can articulate with folks, that can talk with developers, that can kind of direct them to what's best for Highland Park, what we want to see in Highland Park, not what the state wants to see.
What are some of the things we want to see?
Wow. Well, I have a bittersweet relationship with Ferndale. I go to Ferndale and I enjoy the cafes, enjoy the light shopping, the boutiques, all those kinds of things. But it's a bitter relationship because I know those things could happen right in Highland Park. We're not off to the side. Ferndale's on Woodward, and so is Highland Park. So we want some of those same things in Highland Park. Maybe not necessarily the same type of shops, because the market directs you to what you should have. But we most certainly want to have the opportunity to do all those things right there in Highland Park and not have to go across 8 Mile.
Absolutely, because I've watched Ferndale just come alive.
From nothing.
From nothing. Come alive. Well, I remember back in the day on Washington Avenue in Royal Oak, I could be the only person walking on that sidewalk.
Absolutely. Royal Oak had maybe Jimmy's Coney Island and I think a hardware store.
Right, and they had a shoe store on Washington where I went and got some gym shoes once. But I was the only person there.
Right.
Next thing I know, this shopkeeper opened up, this shopkeeper. And then it seemed like they had a plan.
Right.
And they got foot traffic down to
They did have a plan. They sat down, they had a discussion about public-private partnerships. And then, quite frankly, Ms. Perryman, it comes down to leadership. The vision has to come from the top down, and then leadership takes it forward. Yes, the vision needs to be tweaked here and there, and that's fine. But then you move forward with the vision. Leadership.
So how could people contact you?
Oh, they can call me directly. I don't have a problem with that. My cell phone number is 313-585-4777. It's on the website, and it is on my card as well. But 313.
What's your email?
Email it, my name, Rodney Patrick @att.net. That's Rodney Patrick @att.net.
Well, the saga has continued, and I'm just hoping that things really come around for the city, because I love this city.
I do too. My father moved here in 1952 because it wasn't Detroit.
Yeah.
Because Highland Park was the place to be.
It was. And like I said, I've known thousands to come through the doors of Highland Park High School and Highland Park Community High School too. And these people so many of them are still in my life. And I just appreciate Highland Park. And I just, I pray for the leadership, and I pray that things go well. And thank you for keeping us updated and informed on what's happening here in Highland Park. This afternoon, we have a special edition of Table Talk. We interviewed Mr. Michael Ansley. He is the owner of Buffalo Wild Wings and Bagger Dave's. And he's just opened up 2 restaurants in Detroit. And I talked to him about what do they see in Detroit? Why are they still coming with all of the so-called the bankruptcy and all those things that are happening? It seems like a lot of people are still investing, and they know something. They know something. So, and it's funny because his latest restaurant was due to a foreclosure right on Randolph. And I mean, can't we look and see these foreclosures and invest too? I don't know. It's so much. So take a look at us. We filmed right on location. And I will see you again next week, Friday morning, right here on the Brenda Perryman Show. Rodney Patrick, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Highland Park lives.
Yes, we do.